Horror movies have always given us plenty of terrifying creatures. Between vampires and werewolves and serial killers, even clowns, you'd think that a truly scary monster would need to have, say, sharp teeth and a creepy face or some deadly weapons, but surprisingly, one of the most unsettling types of creature in horror history is something far simpler. It's a blob. Yep, we're talking about gooey, gelatinous monsters. At first, they might not seem terrifying. They're just blobs of slime, but trust me, plenty of horror fans would disagree. These creatures may look strange, but the way they move, the way they grow and consume everything in their path, well, it can be downright chilling. So if you're up for some monster horror and you don't mind a little goo along the way, here's a list of 12 creepy gelatinous creatures that'll definitely leave an impression.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
The Blob, 1958 and 1988. One of the most well-known monsters in this category is the titular creature from the 1958 movie The Blob and its 1988 remake, The Blob. The Blob is an alien creature that reaches Earth on a meteorite. As such, it's never mentioned where it came from or what species of alien it belongs to, and it was initially quite small and transparent, like a little ball of slime. However, with every being it devoured, it begins to get bigger and acquires a blood red colour. It was an old man who finds the blob at first, but it attaches itself to his arm and ultimately dissolves him. Steve and Jane, a couple, they try to help the man, but the blob just ends up causing even more mayhem, devouring a doctor and a nurse instead. Acid and bullets have no effect on the creature, and while the police are informed, they mistake the complaint as a prank because, well, you know, how can a blob just eat people? However, the alien continues its rampage across town, devouring a mechanic and a janitor. It then chases Steve and Jane, but stops when they walk inside a freezer. Later, it infiltrates a theater and feeds on many people, growing massive in size. The police attempt to kill the blob with fire, but it has no effect. However, while putting out the fire, it is noticed that the creature backs away from the fire extinguishers, and Steve realizes that it can't stand the cold. As a result, it's blasted with all the fire extinguishers and turned into a solid mass, and then transported to the Arctic. The 1988 remake follows a similar storyline, except that in this version, the blob is revealed to be a weapon of biological warfare created during the Cold War. It looks eerily like jello and can digest flesh upon touching it. It grows in size with every being it consumes, and the limits of its growth aren't known. Due to its jelly-like shape, it can slide through narrow openings and also smash things under its weight. It can't be injured by conventional weapons, since any openings on its body created by those weapons, well, they immediately close up, and it has no internal organs either. It's only weak when it comes to extremely cold temperatures, although it does not die. The Stuff, 1985. The 1985 film The Stuff revolves around a mysterious yogurt-like substance, which in reality is a parasitic organism that can assimilate living beings. It was believed that the stuff originated from inside the earth and was a form of fungus or bacteria that naturally looked like a mass of white goo. However, it can move on its own and also modify its consistency. It can engulf the mouths of those who come across it, causing them to suffocate. Once this stuff is ingested, it starts a kind of chain reaction that ends up controlling the entire physiology of that person. There is an incessant craving to ingest more of the substance, which also influences others to participate. Over time, the host relinquishes all other forms of nourishment and relies only on the stuff. In addition to altering the mentality of the host, the stuff also causes major physiological changes, such as an increase in physical prowess and overall energy without the need for rest or recovery. This increase is usually concerning because it can make the hosts perform otherwise unimaginable feats. These individuals are called stuff hosts, and they become completely subservient to the will of the stuff. They will go to great lengths to ensure that the stuff lives and multiplies and even attacks people who might discover the true nature of the stuff. However, if it feels threatened, the substance can leave the body of the host through any open orifice. Once it departs, the host's body becomes an empty shell. The stuff is not a regular parasite by any means. It not only alters the host's body to suit its needs, but also manipulates the very psyche of that person, which makes it impossible for them to resist the allure of the stuff. It can also multiply and move very rapidly and disguise itself in various consumer products to prey on more hosts. It can withstand extreme temperatures without any trouble, although it is susceptible to fire and can be wiped out if completely immolated.
Abbiamo lasciato la borsa coi gioielli. Aspettami.
Kaltiki, the immortal monster. 1959. In part inspired by The Blob, Kaltiki, the immortal monster, is an Italian horror sci-fi movie that depicts a shapeless, amorphous, blob-like creature as its main antagonist. The movie revolves around a group of archaeologists who come across a shapeless creature while investigating Mayan ruins. The name given to this creature is Kaltiki, as it's believed to be an avatar of a vengeful Mayan goddess. This goddess was presented with human sacrifices during ancient times. When the archaeologists find a statue of her near a pool, one of them goes down to the bottom to find skeletons clad in gold jewellery. While he makes more trips to the bottom of the pool, it's finally revealed that his flesh has decayed over the bones. The Kaltiki then emerges from the pool and absorbs whoever stands in its way. One of the members of the group is attacked but rescued, and the creature is destroyed using gasoline. Yeah, but things aren't hunky-dory just yet, because the member who was attacked still has a piece of the creature on his arm. When scientists look into the mass, they realise that it's a unicellular bacterium that can rapidly multiply in the presence of radiation. A comet that emits radiation crosses the Earth's path every 850 years, and it's rapidly approaching. Under its influence, a piece of the creature starts multiplying and becomes massive in size. However, it can be subdued with fire, as seen before, and this is how it's contained for good by the end of the movie. This creature can squeeze through narrow and small spaces due to its nature and absorbs living beings. It possesses a unique bloodlust, which fans have speculated was caused by the human sacrifices the Mayans had made to the goddess. As such, the creature is immortal and can only be destroyed by being set on fire. Slimer, Ghostbusters, 1984. Most commonly known as the Green Ghost, Slimer was the first ghost to be captured by the Ghostbusters. He's made of a pure ectoplasm and has a huge appetite, particularly for junk food. A definitive feature of this ghost is his leaving slime behind when he passes through solid objects. He's bright green, he has a toothy grin. He was captured at the Sedgwick Hotel, where he was snacking on food from a banquet cart. As he is a ghost, he can easily phase through objects and people with ease. He exudes a sticky green slimy substance that is generally harmless. And one of the most iconic scenes in the Ghostbuster franchise is when Slimer attacks Peter Venkman with slime. He's very durable for a ghost, since he was able to withstand the proton streams of the Ghostbusters for a long time. However, Slimer has evolved from being an enemy to an occasional ally of the Ghostbusters. His character serves as a source of comic relief in the franchise, and has probably been softened down to an extent to make him more palatable to younger audiences. Hedorah, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, 1971. Named after Hedoro, the Japanese term for sludge, vomit, chemical ooze or slime, Hedorah is a monster from the 1971 movie Godzilla vs. Hedorah, which was released in the USA as Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. So it's a monster from outer space that feeds on the pollution of all kinds. It took many different shapes throughout and resembled a tadpole first, then a quadrupedal reptile, then a flying saucer, and finally a humanoid shape. Hedorah's species can reproduce asexually and doesn't need oxygen for survival. The primary form of attack of this creature was squirting chunks of its own acidic body at its opponents, and it could also fire a red beam from its eyes. Hedorah was shown to have the ability to fly and spray a mist of sulfuric acid on its way. Moreover, Hedorah has immense defensive powers, since it could withstand Godzilla's atomic breath even when it was weak. Conventional weapons would pass through its body without leaving any impact. Godzilla's paws were dissolved all the way to the bone after tearing into Hedorah's body. Finally, Godzilla was able to defeat Hedorah by using charged electrodes. Blood Glacier Bacteria, Blood Glacier 2013. The 2013 Austrian horror movie Blood Glacier depicts a mysterious species of bacteria that could combine with the DNA of other beings. There are elements of body horror and ecological thriller in this film, which focus on a group of people discovering an alien bacteria. They are shown to emerge from a glacier as it melts, and it's assumed that they were trapped in there for millennia. Naturally, this means they predate modern ecosystems. Their skill is DNA combination, so they can mutate the DNA of anything they infect. Their hosts undergo rapid and grotesque mutations and even combine traits of different species, as seen in a moth-deer hybrid and many others within the film. These hybrid creatures thus created are very hostile. Humans can be infected too, and they experience violent transformations. The bacteria can spread via direct contact with the red liquid or through infected organisms. Once infected, the bacteria mutate almost instantly and very aggressively. As such, in the movie, it appears that the bacteria were were released as a result of climate change and the melting of glaciers, and they can thrive in warmer climates. Calvin, Life, 2017. Calvin is a very dangerous multicellular alien organism and an apex predator, as portrayed in the 2017 horror sci-fi movie Life. It resembles a white, somewhat translucent cnidarian or a multi-headed planarian. Due to the translucent nature of its skin, its circulatory system is visible, which points to it having internal organs. As the movie progresses and Calvin devours more people, its appearance becomes even more grotesque and he becomes larger. Calvin is discovered as a sample of organic tissue, but upon receiving nutrition, it begins growing into a multicellular form. Every cell in Calvin is a muscle, nerve, and eye all at once. Presumed to be a creature that dominated the Martian soil and possibly caused the extinction of life on Mars, Calvin is woken by the crew during its hibernation. It's revealed to be a semi-intelligent life form too, because it doesn't instantly attack the crew. Instead, it lies in wait and slowly starts its rampage, devouring them because it understands it needs to grow in size. As mentioned in the film, Calvin's very existence meant killing other life forms. The feelings of the aliens do not matter if it even has the ability to feel. It just needs to survive, and for that it needs to eat. The movie has an open ending because it shows Calvin landing on Earth, an event that the crew desperately didn't want to happen. Calvin has superhuman strength and can easily break an arm and hold an opponent back with its tentacles. It possesses an unnatural growth rate as well, since it can absorb whatever it eats. Humans and animals, however, have an even faster effect on Calvin's growth, since it becomes faster and stronger after devouring them. As mentioned already, Calvin possesses enough intelligence to make tactical and strategic decisions that not only saved its life but also managed to get it onto Earth. Calvin survives in extreme temperatures, and while oxygen is necessary for its survival, it can go for periods without needing the gas and can even sustain itself in a diminished capacity in a vacuum. Dagora. Dagora the Space Monster, 1964. Dagora stands out in the world of the kaiju genre for its unconventional character design. It's an extraterrestrial entity that arrives on Earth through a meteorite and has a form that resembles a jellyfish or an amoeba. Its body is massive and amorphous and looks like a translucent cloud. It lacks the humanoid or reptilian characteristics that are typical of a kaiju and appears as a shape-shifting mass only. It descends on Earth and ends up sucking up the coal reserves in Tokyo City. Due to its body, Dagora can pretty much float in the air and travel great distances. It has an affinity for carbon-based materials, particularly diamond and coal. It also has the power of telekinesis and can lift or even destroy objects with invisible force. Due to the amorphous nature of its body, it is immune to conventional weapons, since they just pass through it. However, Dagora is vulnerable to concentrated doses of wasp venom, which is what is ultimately used to destroy it. Son of Blob. Beware, the Blob, 1972. In the sequel to the 1958 movie, which we already discussed, a specimen of a mysterious frozen substance is brought to LA from the Arctic. The man who brought it back, Chester, puts it in a freezer, but his wife takes it out and the Blob springs out thawed. It goes on a rampage once again, devouring every living being in sight. However, this time it shows certain enhanced attributes like sneaking and waiting for its prey. Unlike the first movie where the characters were quickly able to determine the Blob's weakness, this time it takes a lot longer for people to realize that it has an intense aversion to the cold. The movie ends on a cliffhanger. It's left to the audience to determine what has happened. Green Slimes. The Green Slime, 1968. In this movie, a group of astronauts are entrusted with the job of blowing up an asteroid that's on a collision course with Earth. While they manage to carry out the mission successfully, one of them unknowingly carries back a luminous green substance on the leg of his suit. This rapidly mutates into a series of one-eyed tentacle monsters that can discharge very lethal bolts of electricity. The crew tries to fend off these creatures using their laser weapons, but realizes that the laser only amplifies the power of the creature and then lets them multiply. The green slimes are tall and blob-like with brown skin that has bumps all over them. They have thick, scaly legs, 2 arms that look like tentacles, and a single red eye. They have a coating over the torso that resembles seaweed. They can absorb enormous amounts of energy and have regenerative abilities, as mentioned already. In addition to this, though, they have the ability of electrokinesis. They are only killed when the astronauts detonate a nuclear device on the ship. Carroon Creature, The Quatermass Experiment, 1955. In this movie, 3 astronauts are sent to space, but only one of them, Victor Carroon, returns when the ship crash lands. However, it becomes clear that something has infected him during his time in space, as he begins mutating into an alien organism. Something living in outer space has infiltrated the ship, dissolving the other 2 astronauts and entering Carroon's body in some way. After the mutation, Carroon's body begins to look like a huge mass of tumorous flesh and feathery fronds that contain big spores. As a part of this weird mutation, Carroon starts to assimilate other things into his body, like a cactus plant and many animals from the zoo. The spores on his body are probably for reproduction purposes, and if released, can endanger the entire planet. The Carroon creature is killed using electricity at the end, just before it can release these infectious spores. Ancient Enemy, Phantoms, 1998. The 1998 movie Phantoms is an adaptation of Dean Koontz's novel of the same name, and it features an amoeboid shape-shifting creature known as the Ancient Enemy. It resides underneath the fictional American town of Snowfield and has the ability to transform into pretty much whatever it wants. It's also believed that this is Satan and was responsible for the extinction of dinosaurs as well as other mass disappearances throughout documented history. Its body is probably as big as the entire town of Snowfield. Its mass consists of oily and non-cellular organic matter that can be controlled by the cells it possesses. When it's not pretending to be something else, the Ancient Enemy's tissue is a mix of grey and maroon. The creature takes a lot of pleasure in creating phantoms that resemble religious demons and other mythological monsters to terrorize its prey before killing them. It also believes that all other life forms, including humans, are inferior to it and can be used when and as he's hungry. It consumes other creatures for sustenance and can resemble any creature it has devoured. This is not just in physical form, but it can also access the mental abilities of these creatures too. And this allows it to become more powerful and cunning ultimately. It can contort its body to fit into extremely small spaces and has superhuman speed. Conventional weapons, can't harm its gelatinous mass in any way, but it ultimately is defeated using oil-eating bacteria. Marvelous Verdict. While these are certainly not the only gelatinous horrors to have graced the big screen, there are certainly some of the most popular on this list. It's interesting to note that most of these creatures appear to have come from outer space and are alien in nature. Alien horror certainly adds a dimension when it comes to exploring the genre because it makes the monsters even deadlier, more mysterious. However, that in no way indicates that creatures like blood glacier bacteria, which are presumably terrestrial, are any less of a threat. So how many of these gooey movies have you watched? Let us know in the comments what you think of them, and keep your eyes on the channel because we'll be back soon.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.